Welcome to the channel, friends. So today's video is going to be another Corvette related video. I will be covering the Manley extreme alloy exhaust valves that I chose for my LS9. My previous video here was on the PRW roller tip rockers and kind of my first impressions on them, but today we'll be talking about the Manley exhaust valves. As you can see here, I have the supercharger apart because I'm doing a max effort porting on the 2.3 liter stock LS9 supercharger. And we'll be going with the stock lid that has the Kong airfoil and divider in them to add more velocity and airflow and smooth out the airflow going through the supercharger and have less turbulence. So I will be doing a heads cam build this winter and a smaller pulley and all the other supporting mods that go along with this type of modification and upgrade to the vehicle. So I'm doing the work over the winter time here now, so stay tuned for all those videos as they're coming up. I will be posting those as I do each piece of the build. I'll try to be documenting more and more of this as I go along. So heads cam, smaller pulley, and I should be around 900 wheel horsepower, and probably plus that if I go E85 with some race fuel, so we'll see what happens. I just don't have E85 readily available in my area, so I'm most likely going to have to order like Ignite 114 or something and have it delivered, but we'll see. Today's video is going to be on this product right here, which is the Manley extreme alloy exhaust valves that you would do for your high performance supercharged and turbocharged builds. And here is the part number that I'll be talking about: the extreme duty LS3 LS9 type valves. So this is going to be the showcase today. So in my previous video I covered the PRW roller rocker set, which has a roller tip, as you can see here. These are a stainless steel body and they are an upgrade when it comes to stock, when it comes to having a roller tip, and something you want when you have a bigger cam, because the roller tip prevents more friction in the valve train and allows just that mechanism to be smoother and to operate better. So I did a first impressions on that, so check out that video if you are interested in those. But today's going to be the Manley extreme alloy extreme duty exhaust valves. So let's get over to the workbench where there's some better lighting and I'll show you these valves up close and what I think. Alright guys, let's dig into the box and let's check out the valve up close and kind of show you the features, why it makes it such a great valve. Now this is an extreme duty, extreme alloy stainless steel. This is the highest end valve you can get from Manley. It's going to handle the most heat. This is going to be applications for like high horsepower turbocharged and supercharged builds. The stock LS9 exhaust valve is a good valve, don't get me wrong, but since I'm going towards 1,000 horsepower, I want something more serious and that can handle more heat. This has a higher hot hardness, which means it's going to stay stiffer and more rigid with an elevated exhaust temperature. That's the reason why you would upgrade your exhaust valve. Now these were like $425 for the set, which is a great price. I think they run around $500. So I saw them for a good price and I was like, you know what, I'm going to spring for the Manleys. They are very high quality products. I did think about getting the GM LS3 INCONEL valves, but them being a cheap valve at about $30 each, most likely they're not going to be of high quality as like you have here with the Manley. And the reason why I say is because the back side of the valve here is a swirl polish. Now those factory valves don't have that. They have just like a machined or a turned finish on the back side of the valve here and don't have this extra treatment. So more expensive valves are going to have better features. The stock one does not have a radius here. This has a radius where the gases will exit. So that's also beneficial because it's going to run smoother around the valve as it's exiting. Like I said, it also has a swirl polish, which aids in the buildup. I'm actually going to go ahead and polish these out, not on the stem here, but on the backside further, as well as the face. These are a little bit rough on the face. I'm going to go ahead the extra step and polish them to a kind of a higher finish, a mirror finish. That way it does not build up any carbon. I'll be doing the same thing to my heads on the tops of the cylinder heads. So the tops of the combustion chamber, I should say. So polishing this out does help, but the way it sits here, this is a great valve. It's got a good finish. It's got that nice swirl polish. Very nice ground finish. You know, this is a high temperature alloy. The stock LS9 valves are stainless steel, sodium filled. The sodium is a salt that melts, according to what I hear, and it extracts heat from the head to the stem, to the valve guide, and then to the actual casting of the head. And it just pulls the heat out, and it's supposed to be a high performance valve. But I stepped up to the Manley because, like I said, I'm just building something with more horsepower, and it's going to be generating more heat. And I want something that's going to last, and I don't want to have to take apart the heads to do this type of upgrade again in the future. So I have everything apart now, and I might as well take care of it. So, but when it comes to the valve, I mean, it's really nothing else to talk about. I think it's a really high quality product. Up close, you know, you can see the beauty and the reason why you pay more. You just get a really, really nice, high quality machined and ground valve. Valves that are like half the price of this cannot even come close to the quality you have here, just as it sits out of the box. So I'm really happy with the way they look. I'm going to go ahead and do that final polishing treatment just on the backside and on the face, and just up the stem here just a little bit. I don't want to polish this. This is going to be a consistent diameter that's going to be in contact with the valve guide, so I don't want to touch that. But I'm really happy with these valves. You cannot get better than this valve right here if you're serious about horsepower. They do weigh more, so I'm going to go ahead and put them on a scale and compare them to the stock valve and show you what they weigh. So we're in grams right now. It's zeroed out, and we have 95.8 grams for the Manley Extreme Duty valve. 95.8. Now we have a stock valve here. This is what it looks like. It's got a very rough finish. I mean, it's obviously a used exhaust valve, and a lot of carbon builds up here in the back, as you can see, and on the face. So that's what I'm trying to prevent by polishing the backside and kind of up the stem here and the face. And this here has a bevel, like a chamfer, and not a radius like the Manley does. So that's the advantage of something like this. You can easily go ahead and put a radius in here, but you don't have the high temperature alloy like the Manley. So let's go ahead now and measure the stock exhaust valve. We have 71.4, so that's quite a bit of difference there. That's over 20 grams. 24 grams more. 71.5. So with the added weight in your valve train, you need to make sure that you run higher pressure springs to compensate for this added weight of the exhaust valve. So if you're doing a large cam, most likely you're adding dual spring valves for your LS, and this will be a good fit. But you have to be conscious of all that added weight you're adding with each one of the valves you're replacing. If you start adding, different rocker arms, those weigh more, then these weigh more. So it's all kind of something you have to keep in mind, but it is definitely worth the extra weight when it comes to reliability and just durability of the actual valve itself. So that's about it, guys. I mean, that was a quick review on the Manley valve. I will be putting these into my LS9 and continuing the build. I'm doing K-Tech's CNC ported heads, which is, I sent in my heads, they do the CNC porting, they do the valve job, and they send it back to me. I also installed bronze guides, which I also have a video on, so check that out. I will be doing supercharger porting. The 2.3 liter stock supercharger will be ported out to a max effort to get as much airflow as possible. Alright, so I'm back here on a different day, and I want to talk about the polishing treatment I did on the Manley exhaust valves. I did the same thing on the intake valves, which I'm reusing the LS9 titanium intake valves, but I did go ahead and back cut these right here to make a better transition for improved airflow, and then I went and polished out the faces, the head, and the stem with rubbing and polishing compound. So I did not hit the stem with any kind of sandpaper because I want to keep the diameter to be true, and I don't want to mess up the diameter going up the stem. But I did polish it with rubbing compound and then polishing compound separately. So both of these valves, when I polished them out and did the grinding treatment, I chucked up in the drill press. Now, do not put these in the drill press chuck the way they are, making contact with the bare metal of the stem. You will screw them up and gouge them up. Do not do that, okay? Put a piece of tubing over this. That way it protects the stem, and then that way you can chuck up on the stem and insert it into the drill press and cinch it down, and then go ahead, true it up, make sure this thing is spinning nice and true. You don't want any run out on this when you're doing work on it. You want it to be as true as possible, which sometimes took a couple of attempts to relocate and reposition. Once it starts running true and you have no run out here, then you can go ahead and polish out and sand as needed. But that's what I did. Put that protective sleeve on there. That way it prevents any damage from happening to the stem. And then I hit it with multiple stages of sandpaper, very fine sandpaper, and then polishing compound. So first I started off with 400 grit, 600 grit, then 1000, 1500, then finalized with 2000 on just the headpiece here, not the stem, okay? Do not touch the stem with any kind of sandpaper. You will screw it up. So on these valves, there is a chrome nitride finish on the stem. You do not want to damage that chrome finish at all because that's for wear, okay? That's to prevent wear, and it's a hard finish on the stem area just for that reason, and to make them last a long time. Even though these are INCONEL, they still have a chrome nitride finish right here on the stem. So do not hit those with sandpaper. You will screw them up, you will thin out that coating, and then it will just wear in a lot faster. So I concentrated my efforts only on the face, along the side, and the back side of the valve right up to here. So I put my tubing right up to this spot here so I could not go onto the polished ground stem diameter. And basically, like I said, I just, take my time wet sanding it with 400, then 600, then 1000, then 1500, then 2000, and then finalizing with rubbing compound and then polishing compound, which gives you this finish here, which is a nice mirror finish. Now this prevents carbon building up, it prevents hot spots, and it also prevents stress risers caused by ridges and kind of machine tooling marks that are left behind. So if you can polish those out, it's more beneficial and you'll get higher flow around your valve. The Manley is already shaped very nicely, especially with this nice radius here. It's going to flow really nice with the exhaust gases. But the extra treatment of just polishing out, I think, is the best bet, because that way you know your exhaust valve is at the highest performance it can be. So the last treatment I did on these was to polish out the stem. These are ground finish, but there is some, grinding marks still left behind. So what I did was as I had it chucked up in the drill press, I got a different length tubing, which was about 1 inch long, and then I chucked it up along this diameter here, about 1 inch from the top, and then that would expose the rest of it here, and I polished this with rubbing compound, cleaned it off, and then polished it with polishing compound and cleaned it off. Just the same stuff you use to polish the paint on your car. That's what I used here. So that just provided a much slicker and more polished finish on this. It does not take off any material because you're only on there for not even 30 seconds to a minute with the polishing compound. It's just going to really nice smooth that over, that coating and everything, and it's going to give you a better finish on the actual surface. I also struck off the tops of the heads on these valves because the very tip here had a little bit of machining mark from the grinding process. You could feel the tooling mark, the teeth left behind from the abrasive wheel that they used to grind these. So what I did was I took these nice and square, and I took a 800 grit stone and then struck it off, got rid of the machining marks, then a 1500 grit stone, and then I finished it off with a white Arkansas polishing stone to give you a nice finish on the top here. So they're nice and broken in. I did not take off any material really. I just got rid of the tooling marks left behind from the grinding process. So these valves are all ready to go to put into my LS9. I have the heads cam and a smaller pulley build as well as possibly E85. I'm not sure yet, but I have the K-Tech CNC ported heads on their way back to me anytime soon, and I'll let you guys know what that looks like. But I'm really happy with these valves. They look like a piece of jewelry now. It's too bad that they're going to be hidden inside the engine, but they are so smooth to the touch. I mean, when you run your fingernail across this, even though there might be some visual marks left behind from machining them, grinding them, it's a lot smoother than it was. These were really rough on the face, especially before I polished them out and you know, sanded them down. But these are really nice now. There's no kind of rough spots on them. The swirl polish is gone, but that's only for an aesthetic reason. It's not for a function at all. It's just aesthetics. It's just an easy way for companies to kind of market their product and make it look good and make it like this woo-woo stuff that, like, you know, that really doesn't matter, honestly. They could have spent a little extra time and polished these out for the money they cost. I mean, they are $500 after all. But there's still like gouge marks left behind from the grinding wheel that they used to do that. But I went over that, obviously, and polished everything out, and it still has a great finish, as you can see there. There's some traces left behind from that swirl polish, but the polished treatment on this is going to really perform. And I'm really happy with everything, how it came out. The same thing I did to these intake valves, and I back cut these on the drill press as well with a diamond hone. And I basically knocked off that sharp transition at the very top. Not where it seals, but the next facet, which is up above here, or just under the skirt. I basically knocked that sharp corner off and put a radius on it, so it will flow more air during the low end of the lift. So really happy to get these polished up and cleaned up, and they're going to be ready to put inside the engine soon. There is a noticeable difference, like even on the stem where I polished it with the rubbing compound and the polishing compound. It feels much smoother and better finish. It's slicker, both the exhaust and the intake, because before, like I said, you could still feel the ground marks left behind from the grinding process on the stem diameter here. But really happy with these. I have more videos coming of all the different components I'm going to be using for the build, so stay tuned if you're interested in kind of the timeline of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and the kind of the things I'm choosing to put in my build. I will be continuing and trying to document all that. So, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions or comments, please place them right down below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do so. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.